Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Direct Insurance Podcast, otherwise known as DIP, a podcast for independent insurance agents brought to you by Insurance Advisors Direct, a full service FMO. My name is Kelsey. I am your host. I am also the digital marketing assistant as well as social media strategist here at IAD. And today I am joined by a very special guest. Today, my special guest is Miss Kayla Salomon. So, Miss Kayla, please introduce yourself for the audience.
Hi, my name is Kayla Solomon. Really excited to join you as a guest on the podcast today. I have a background in marketing and advertising. I went to University of Michigan, and that's where I have my business degree. I specialize in digital marketing, minored in communications, and I'm certified in public relations, and I have agency experience.
And you're a travel influencer.
Trying, in progress.
Yeah. But yeah, actually, that's kind of something that we kind of wanted to talk about today. So what we're going to be talking about is how to structure content for higher reach, views, and engagement. And so for a lot of our insurance agents, we're really trying to focus on teaching them how to develop content for themselves that will really help push their overall brand presence further into those social media algorithms so that then they can become more discoverable online to a potential base of consumers that fall within their niche. So let's go ahead and dip into some insurance, shall we? Tell me a little bit more about you. So how did you kind of get your start using social media?
Yeah, so I kind of started pretty young, maybe in like my teenage years when social media kind of started to pick up. I'm a little too young for MySpace days, but definitely with Facebook and Instagram, I started out there. And it was just something I did for fun. I never thought it would ever turn into a serious career. And then just as time progressed, I kind of used social media as almost like a photo album that was online. And then I went to school, started to dabble in the business world, had no clue what I wanted to do, and found out that social media was a huge new thing that was taking off. So I decided, sure, let's go that route. And ever since then, I started specializing in social media and just realized how impactful it can be. It's such a great tool to businesses and just people in general. And then I ended up working for the agency side. So I get to see what it's like to run large scale campaigns, but I still use it for myself to promote travel and hopefully become a travel influencer one day.
Yeah. So funnily enough, so Kayla and I actually met while we were in school at University of Michigan Dearborn, and we were both in the American Marketing Association together. And it was very kind of just like funny how our friendship kind of like progressed. But of course, like as during like lockdown, I think is when we got really close because we were doing a lot of like late night Zoom sessions, just like, hey, we just need to talk to somebody. But then once kind of like travel restrictions started getting lifted a little bit more, I'd be like, oh, well, hey, let's hang out. And you'd always be like, oh, sorry, I'm going to be in Greece. Sorry, I'm going to be in I'm going to be in Jamaica. Sorry, I'm going to be in Washington, D.C. And I'm just like, okay, that's fine. I guess I'll just be over here by myself on my couch. That's cool. So, but I really enjoy watching all of your travel content, and the things that you do post are so helpful because you're not just posting a bunch of pictures of yourself like, oh, look at me, like I'm on vacation, I'm on the beach. Like the type of content that your post is extremely helpful because you're more just like posting about your experiences and the things that you learned throughout your travel, just throughout your travels, and just the things that have impacted your travel, and like, the do's and don'ts of going here and there. And so that's something that I think that a lot of insurance agents don't really think about when they are thinking about what type of content that they should be posting. We talk a lot about how everything is content and that you should be focusing a lot on even sharing things in your personal life as well, so that then you can become more relatable. But it also does have to do with a lot of strategy, and you have to think about what your goals are as well when you're thinking about what type of content that you want to post to your social media pages, especially for a business. So what do you use social media for, and how do you use it to reach your goals? I mean, I know we had kind of already touched on this a little bit earlier that you use it a lot for personal reasons, but let's take a little bit of a deeper dive into that.
Yeah, I think you have to strategize, like you said, when you use social media, because it's different than just kind of posting. So when I first started out with social media, it was more so just this photo album of my personal life that I could reflect on. And then if you want to take it up a notch and actually provide value to other people, you need to have it be engaging. So you have to kind of take that step back and realize this might seem important to me. I might like this photo of myself or my friends, but does the world find that valuable? Like what does that provide to them? It's much different if I post a photo in front of the Eiffel Tower in Paris and I say, oh, look at me, like I'm in Paris, like this is amazing, versus me saying and warning people, hey, don't travel in the holidays. The train schedule was terrible. People will try to scam you in the subway. Like the lines will be 2 hours long. And that's relevant content to them versus me just saying, oh, this is fake, life is perfect. I don't want to do that. I want to provide actual value to people. And you can definitely align that with your business goals. So if my goal is to get followers or have people just enjoy and learn about life and travel in general, then I want to provide something of value to them. And you can do that with any area that you're in, career field wise. Like for insurance, I know there's a lot of rules and stipulations of certain things you can't share, such as prices, but you can definitely share other valuable information with the audience to get them engaged. And whatever your goal is, align that. If you're trying to get followers, add a little follow me or learn more here, or just whatever you can do to kind of keep them engaged but provide something that's relevant to your audience.
Yeah, I agree. I really like the fact that you brought up that you should say, "Hey, follow me," or even given like a call to action, like this page for whatever this reason. Comment down below if you have questions about this. Having some sort of like call to action that is a call to engagement, because engagement is what is going to help that piece of content go further into the social media algorithm, which is therefore means that the algorithm is going to show it to more people, because whether we like it or not, social media is kind of a game. You have to strategize. You can't just it's not like the olden days of Facebook and Instagram in like 2012, 2013, 2014, where you could really just post anything that you wanted and you would get a ton of engagement on it, or you would get X number of people liking, commenting, whatever. You have to be very strategic about what it is that you're posting, especially when you are doing it in regards to a business. Now, granted, you do want to still like post that educational content. Like, for example, I tell our agents all the time, especially because in the Medicare space specifically, there are so many laws and regulations around like what you can and cannot share. But I always tell everybody, I'm like, listen, Medicare 101 is 100% free game for you to use. You are allowed to post and talk about anything that is on the Medicare 101 website, or Medicare.gov website, I'm sorry, because all of that is just purely true, factual, Medicare related information that you can share with your audience members. It has nothing to do with like carrier or plan specific. It is really just about how the Medicare system works. And you're really just trying to teach someone how all of these factors kind of come into play when it comes to selecting a Medicare plan, and really sharing like the do's and don'ts of selecting a plan that's right for you and your health. But so we also kind of want, like, kind of jumping back into strategy. We were talking about strategizing your content. Why is it that having a business strategy is important? Because especially since you work for an agency, how is that important to your agency? And then how is that important to you on your own social media pages?
It's really important to align your business goals. That is probably where you should start, to be honest, because social media is taken in so many different directions and you could go crazy trying to follow all the trends. And if you don't make sure it aligns to your goals, your content's not going to be relevant to your audience. I mean, there could be things you see that may be very popular that are going viral, and you can try and take those trends and adapt them to your end goal and your end strategy, and maybe it'll become relevant for what you're trying to advertise, such as insurance. But you need to make sure that everything goes back to your plan, because you don't want to just have your social media feed become this random wild page that nothing even makes sense. It's you trying to make, dances on TikTok or something that it might be fun, and you can do that for some of your media. You can have it be random, but you need to make sure you're aligning to what you want, because ultimately if you're not strategizing to get the follows, to get the impact, to get the leads, whatever you're striving for, you're not going to get them if you're not really focused, because you can easily become derailed.
Yeah, I think it's really important to have purposeful content. Now, granted, especially when it comes to platforms like Facebook, it is a little bit more acceptable to be more social with your content. Like, for example, when I had done the episode with the bougie budget mom, Tiffany, we talked about how even your coffee order can be considered content, because it's a way for you to engage with people. Because, I mean, coffee is something that generally a good majority of the population can relate to. Whether you are just a simple black coffee person or whether you like cappuccinos, macchiatos, lattes, there's always something that somebody has in common. So there are different ways for you to kind of make more relatable content. But at the end of the day, you do have to have a purpose for it. There should be a reason why you're posting that photo or that video. And there should be always a call to action or a call to engagement. And you should also always be using a hook as well. So a hook being like, you can utilize numbers like, oh, 3 tips for this. 5 reasons why you should do this, 7 things that you should avoid when you're doing this. And that's a way that you're going to be able to like bring in that audience so then they will actually listen to what it is that you have to say. You have to give them a reason to listen to you. You have to kind of give your audience member that this is why you should pay attention to me and why you should follow me. And that's kind of what your end goal is in strategizing your content pieces.
Oh, absolutely. And even if you're scrolling through your own social media, you can start to notice the trends that you pick up on, things that grab your attention, things that are engaging to you. Think about if you're just scrolling through Instagram Reels or you're on Facebook, and if something isn't really eye-catching, doesn't have that hook, are you stopping to watch it or are you just scrolling through the next one, right? Really take notice of that and it'll help you strategize for yourself as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I love to talk about my favorite fickle mistress, the algorithm, right? So when we're talking about the social media algorithms, it's because the algorithm will prioritize content in a user's feed based on the likelihood that that person actually wants to see that content. So even people who follow you might not ever even see your content. Like they could literally hit that little follow button, but they could never see your content ever again if it's not relatable to them based on the things that they already watch and follow and that they like and that they engage with. So if you're not making your content immediately something that they can engage with and that they are interested in, more than likely, even if they follow you, they're not going to see it. And that's the reason why I always tell everybody, I'm like, listen, your followers are just a vanity metric. Just because you have 100,000 followers does not mean that 100,000 people are going to be buying from you. So that's something to keep in mind.
The algorithm is such a dreaded thing. I know it's constantly rapidly changing. I always encourage people to not try to get too hung up on it, especially when they say, like, I want to go viral. Like, it's not that easy. There's a lot that goes into it. But if you kind of want to structure it in a way, if you want impressions, you want those eyeballs on the page and just your photo, your video, whatever you're sharing. And then you want those likes, like that's the next step, right? The next level of engagement. And then if you get people to comment on it, which could also be a call to action, you can say like, comment your questions. And then you can even use those questions to create more videos because your audience is directly telling you what they want to hear from you. And then of course, if they share it, now it's truly relevant. You can see that they're sharing it to other people. And then that's how your page can kind of grow. But like you said, it could be a complete, just a false sense of security almost for people that have like hundreds of thousands of followers, because if they're not getting the engagement, like that's not the end goal.
I love the fact that you brought up that you wanted to get people to ask questions and how you can answer the questions with another piece of content. And that's something that I've also been telling a lot of our agents about too, is that they're like, well, what is it that I should be making content about? I'm like, well, you're the expert. Like you're the one who ends up talking to all of the like to ask your previous clients like what were your questions about Medicare or insurance in general, like what were your questions before you started working with me, and then take those frequently asked questions and then answer them with a piece of content. Because you know how like when you're in school and your teacher is always encouraging you like, yeah, like raise your hand and ask a question if you have a question, because more than likely other people in your classroom are going to have that same question. The same rule applies. If you find that one of your previous clients or just a client in general has a question, more than likely somebody else out there has the same question. So you should answer it with that piece of content. We want to kind of prioritize the fact that your audience's feed is based on the content that they've previously liked or engaged with. So you want to make sure that you have a social media strategy that allows you to post content that works with the algorithm in order to reach a wider audience. And so I know that we talk a lot about these different metrics like reach, impressions, and engagement. So I'm just going to kind of like go through what those actually are really quick. So reach is the number of accounts that the post was seen by. So that's number of people. And so then your impressions is the number of times that that piece of content was seen. So you could have a reach of 1,000, but you could have 1,100 impressions, which means that 100 people saw that piece of content at least twice. And then you've also got, like we said, engagement. So engagement is any action that a user takes on a social media post, such as likes, comments, shares, etc. And one of the things that I find that is really, really important when it comes to engagement is that because obviously, we're all out here for the likes, obviously we want everybody to comment, but something that I find that is even more important than likes and comments is shares. Because like you said before, like everybody wants to go viral. Well, really, that's kind of how it happens, is how you go viral is because people are sharing that piece of content for even more people to see, because then that's how other pieces of content will filter back into the algorithm. Because like I'd said before, somebody could be following you, but then really never ever see your content. But if somebody else is sharing that piece of content again with you, then that's when you'll be able to see it. And then that's when it gets filtered back into the algorithm.
Absolutely. A perfect example of that is my best friend. She loves cats, and I'm more of a dog person. And she'll send me all these videos. And then before I know it, they're all of like cats. And I have like cats on my Instagram reels. And then what do? I share it back with her because I know this is something that she would enjoy. But that's just kind of how the algorithm works with your friends, your closest family, whoever you're sharing content with. It really can spiral and just kind of just like you said, share that content further and further for other people. And same with the audience. I know there might be a certain demographic that people are trying to reach with insurance, but I mean, even if you share it to possibly the like children of the target market that you're trying to reach, they might share it with their parents or their grandparents and be like, hey, are you all set with insurance? Or this is really relevant. Have you learned about this? And just, I know now you might be focusing on the older generation or whoever you're trying to target, but you do have to kind of build that like upper funnel and think about the people that you're going to need to get later in life as well, and just keep them informed. Because I don't know that much about insurance. Luckily, I'm still under my parents' insurance because I'm under 26, thank God. But I mean, thinking
Just you
about it,
wait.
I know, I
That's
don't,
when the
I don't want
body
to think
starts
about
falling apart is when you need to get your own insurance.
I know it's terrible timing. They say your body starts to fall apart at 25. So that's just perfect timing. But just thinking about insurance in the future. And even going past that point is that I think a lot of experts in their field, which anyone who really has a job in that field, such as the agents that work in insurance, they're experts. And it's often a trap you fall into when you are your subject matter expert. You don't realize how much you know. You don't realize what's relevant to share. You don't, something that's basic common knowledge to you, you might think, well, of course, everyone knows the age for Medicare is this. Like, I don't. I couldn't tell you the age. I don't know really the bare bones and the basics of that. So something that seems so simple could actually be really engaging content. And you want to keep it short and sweet. It doesn't have to be these hour long, like a podcast we're doing. The human attention span is only 7 to 8 seconds, constantly decreasing as internet speeds and just all this content is thrown at us. So just three simple things: throw it up, put it on a trending sound, do a little bullet point list, and watch your content take off. It could take you 10 minutes, not even, to film this and record it. Like you said, you could be grabbing coffee and just be like early morning chat or something like, I always need my coffee, or this helps me think about my future plans, or like getting my mind straight, or something funny about how coffee lets you focus on important things, and then list the three most important things about insurance that everyone should know. Like very simple things.
I really, really love, there's a couple points that I want to bring back up that you talked about that I thought were really, really important. So number one was you were talking about the business funnel. And that's something that I'm always really trying to kind of get into people's minds, is that people have to know about you in order to buy from you. We're talking about like building an entire business funnel by using social media. Ring number one is generating that brand awareness. Like, people will find out, see you. They have to see you. They have to get to know who you are. And then the next ring is going to be developing interest. They're going to be interested in a little bit more of what you have to say. And then at a certain point, you're going to be able to convert them, whether that means that they're going to start following your page. They're going to start engaging with your content. They're going to visit your website. They're going to find out a little bit more about you. And then at a certain point, like you'll kind of get into this like negotiation phase of whether, if they have an actual need for whatever it is that you're buying or servicing, then that's when they'll start to kind of like consider whether they want to work with you or not. And then you'll get to the point of like, okay, so now I have to put this person into my book of business and they've become a customer. And then of course, it's always easier to retain a current customer than it is to gain a new one, because think about it, you've done all this work to gain them as a client. So now you want to keep them as a client. So you want to make sure that you're continuing to use social media to not only to gain current clients, but also to retain those clients as well. Keep up with them and comment on their posts as well. Follow up with what they're doing. Stay engaged with their friends and family, because that's another way that you're going to be able to obtain referrals as well. And the second thing that you brought up that I thought that was really, really important is the fact that you as an agent, you are the subject matter expert. And that you don't think to yourself that like, oh yeah, like the ABCDs of Medicare, that's like super simple. Everybody knows that when you turn 65, you get Medicare. Well, no, like not everybody knows that. And not even just that, but there are lots of stipulations to that. Like, so say, for example, if somebody is still working and they're still covered under their employer's health insurance and they have greater than 20 employees, then they don't have to enroll in Medicare. I mean, like you can enroll in Medicare Part A, because depending on how long you've worked and all kinds of other like tax reasons, then your Part A premium can be a $0 premium. But there are all kinds of other things that like you can use to educate your audience on. And just because you're the expert in it and that you know about it doesn't mean that everybody else does too. So like for me, like as a freelance makeup artist, I could say like, oh yeah, like everybody knows that you should put on like cream products before powder. But no, not everybody does know that. There might be somebody that'll be like, oh my goodness, well, why does my foundation look so bad if I put on like a powder foundation and then I just want to touch up with like a little bit of concealer and then it just looks all weird. It's like, well, but yeah, because you got to use cream before powder. So but like to me, I'm like, duh, everybody knows that, but not everybody does. So you have to kind of remember and think to yourself that you are this fountain of knowledge and you should be able to share what you know with an audience of people by using social media to do that. And another great way to get your content to go further into the algorithm is your video completion rate. So that's another one of those metrics that we were talking about earlier. So your video completion rate is the average time that your audience spends watching your video content. So the longer that that piece of content gets watched, the more that the algorithm will push it further into and show it to more people. Because if people are watching your video from beginning to end, that tells the algorithm, okay, this is something that more people might want to see because they're watching it from beginning to end. Another metric that I wanted to go over is cost per click. So when you are paying for ads, you're being charged per click for your ad. And this is best when you're targeting for a specific promotion, like a webinar or maybe like a seminar. And then there's also cost per thousand impressions or CPI. So when you're paying for ads, this is when you're charged a specific amount of money for every 1,000 impressions that your post or ad receives. And all of these different metrics do play a huge role in your overall marketing success. But you have to keep in mind too that you have to have a purpose for every piece of content. Like we were saying before, like, yeah, you can't just like throw a bunch of stuff out there and like expect it to perform well. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I have seen pieces of content from either like third party marketing agencies that are providing social media marketing for other agents, and I'm just like, what in the world, what was the purpose of this? Like what is this doing for anyone? Like it didn't educate me, it didn't encourage me to do anything, and it definitely didn't entertain me. So if you're not doing anything to entertain, encourage, or educate, then then it's there for nothing. So that's what I kind of wanted to talk about next is the content diversification rule, or the 3-2-1 rule, because for every 6 pieces of content that you have, 3 should be educational, 2 should be about you and your company culture, and then 1 should be promotional. So saying like, hey, buy from me. So in your experience as a travel influencer or even as an agency employee, how important is it to have a good content diversification?
It is that's actually a very great point. It's very important because you don't want the same thing. You want to align it with your goals, but you want to keep it refreshing. Right? You need to excite, you need to entertain, you need to engage. You can also have a couple just funny, like humorous things thrown in the mix. So you don't want the same thing because it can be kind of redundant, maybe become boring to your audience, but you do want to keep it kind of structured. I believe, did we already touch base about this, about how you always want to make sure you excite, entertain, engage, like the
I'm pretty
rules of the
sure we
content?
did, but at the same time, this is also, guys, listen, okay, I'm going to need everybody to share this episode because this is the third time that Kayla and I have recorded this episode. Because for one reason or another, things just kept getting like messed up, either like with the audio or the video, like something went wrong. So say a prayer for us this time that it works out.
Hopefully,
If you're
finally.
hearing this episode, it's because we were finally able to get it to work. So please share this episode. But yes, we talked about so the 3-2-1 rule being educate, entertain, or encourage. So like your 3 E's of content. And so your content purpose allows you to structure your content in a way that gives you a bird's eye view of what your audience will be seeing from you. So content again will be most often educational, but a great way to reach a new audience is to make them laugh. And you don't always want to have to be super serious about insurance because, to be honest, like to me, we're kind of like past. I feel like we talk a lot on this podcast about like kind of being past the era of the really like structured, like suit and tie, Wolf of Wall Street kind of guy. His name is Tom. We just gave him a name. Tom is also a succulent. Sitting on Tiffany's bookshelf. But we're kind of getting away from that. And so like we want to be able to have people showcase their personal brand and things that make them them, like so if you're a father and an uncle and you enjoy sports and you like to golf or you used to be an Olympic swimmer, those are things that you can share with people. I actually had an agent ask me the other day. She showed me a couple of pictures of her from an event that she had gone to a while back, and she is Indian. And so she had on like the sari and like the beautiful headpiece and everything. And she was like, "Oh, well, is this something that I should be sharing to my social media?" And I was like, "Yes, absolutely, because it's something about you. It's your culture. It's your background, and it's something that you want people to be able to know about you and connect with you on, because you never know what somebody is going to have in common with you and that you can be able to strike up a conversation about, because having something in common and having something that's relatable to someone else. So at the end of the day, just post it, just do it.
Yeah, and even if it's different, I mean, we're human. We crave that new interaction between each other. At the end of the day, sometimes you realize how similar we all are. Right? I know there's content that is strikingly accurate sometimes. And I'm like, is there a secret video camera in my house? Like, how do this many people in the world relate to me? Those funny videos you see online. So, like you said, just something that's kind of relatable. And even if it's not, then guess what? You're educating your audience on something new that they might find intriguing. I know, like you said, how they wear the very formal outfits and dresses. I love seeing those over the top weddings, and everyone comes in their beautiful dress from head to toe. And it's just something refreshing and different because I don't get to see that. That's not part of my culture, but I love to learn about other cultures. And going back a little bit, you did mention the content that might be very, I guess, relatable for everyone. And an idea that popped into my head with insurance is something as simple as like recording maybe like a, not even a baseball game, but just something along the lines that older people or grandparents might relate to. And you can even say, like, wouldn't you rather be enjoying your days, like watching your like grandchildren, right? Like playing sports, or just something that's relatable to the older audience, instead of worrying about insurance, right? Like, let me handle the worries, like contact me today, right? It can be something as simple as that, as trying to sell whatever service you want, or that they should not have to worry about, that maybe people aren't necessarily focusing on. So going back to that coffee example too, right? Just coffee, something simple, something millions of Americans and people drink every single morning, right? And you might not think that that's content, but it is. It's very relatable
Yes.
to a lot of people.
Everything is content. Everything is content. Don't forget to film it. Don't forget to film it.
Yes, very true.
But yeah, since we're actually talking about filming things, what is your stance on video versus text versus pictures versus links as far as content? In of those four pieces of content, what is the most, rank them from like most to least important?
Yes. Oh, that's so hard because it's really hard to rank them because they're all for different scenarios and situations, right? It's actually interesting that the paid ads that are almost doing better on video platforms are still photos because the market's so saturated with videos. And when you're just on Instagram, the videos are doing better because it's so saturated with photos, which is why social media is so hard and it's always changing. But it depends on what you're going for, right? If you want engaging content right now, it's videos. TikTok took over. That's transitioning into Instagram, which is falling into all of Meta. So now it's switching over to Facebook. Links are very engaging if you're trying to take them to a website. But if there's no website, then you don't have a link, right? That's not relevant. So it really depends on the content that you're pushing. But I definitely think right now in this market, video is superior to photos. It's just engaging, it's more relatable, it's more human. People can easily Photoshop photos. People aren't really trusting that as much. Not that you can't with video. AI is getting absolutely insane. It terrifies me. You know, you apply some filters and I'm like, I don't look like this. Like that's not me. That's a different human being.
Oh my
But
goodness,
I think
have you tried the new bold glamour filter on TikTok?
it's a whole new person. I have
Oh,
a nose job. I have new eyebrows.
no, seriously, that's what I said too. I was like, oh my gosh. And then I actually had made a video. I was like, I could probably do this with makeup, right? Like, just like, sculpt my cheeks a little bit more, like fill in my brows a little bit more, wear like a really, really full coverage foundation. I mean, like, yeah, I could recreate this with makeup, but like at the same time, it's like, dang, who is this? Like, this is not me. Like, this is maybe like in another world, the perfect version of me. But so I'm actually really glad that you had talked about prioritizing video and then how pictures are more engaging as well. But then you'd also have like links and text. But why is it important to have a really good content mix? So especially when it comes to a platform like Facebook, because you can have a little bit of everything. Obviously, like TikTok is all videos. I mean, actually, no, I stand corrected. You can TikTok actually does have a feature now where you can have like a carousel of photos, kind of like
Mhm.
how Instagram does, which I think is actually kind of funny because TikTok actually is starting to prioritize those pieces of content. So I find that to be very interesting. But so yeah, so TikTok mainly, we'll just say like mostly mainly video. And then obviously with Instagram, you've got video and then photos. And then with Facebook, you've got a little bit of everything. You've got text, links, photos, videos, and then you can also go live as well, which I do recommend. But so for you as a consumer and as an agency employee, what is the importance of having a good content mix?
Yeah, it's important because it depends on what your end goal is, right? If you're on LinkedIn, you might not just post a like a I don't know, a quick eye-catching engagement video that you would maybe post that's more like humor, which would be for Instagram and Facebook, but you might post a serious photo or professional photo with a link because most people on LinkedIn, I'd say you'd have a heavier user base on their computer, maybe while they're working, than compared to just on their phone scrolling for something entertaining to waste the day away, right? You would have someone that's actually looking for some serious content where a link to a website makes sense or a longer video on there compared to Instagram, where you're probably going to want that like 10 to 30-second video or reels and just more trying to gain followers to then advertise further on there versus Facebook, where more the podcast could live, or YouTube for that matter. So it's important to switch it up. And if you social media is very time consuming, right? That's our full-time jobs. We understand how advertising and marketing is larger than people realize, but you don't have to always. You can start with kind of the bare bones. If all you have is the time and resources to just make one video or one photo and kind of share it across platforms, do it. It's better than nothing, but it's also really important to diversify and realize that just because you posted it on LinkedIn and it does well doesn't mean that's necessarily meant for Instagram. You can take though a longer video, and let's say we make a podcast like this, and you could chop it up into little bits and pieces and make a 30-second reel and put that on Instagram because that's going to do better. Make it even shorter for TikTok. And all of these could have text that's saying, come watch my podcast, right? It could be the same end result, but one is 30 minutes, one is a minute, 30 seconds, and 15 seconds, right? So just
Yeah.
diversifying that for each platform.
Yes, I agree. I agree. But one of the things that you brought up that I thought was very, very interesting and something that I felt like I kind of knew, but I had never really like thought of before was that LinkedIn is most often used on the desktop and not like people have like the LinkedIn app, but how often are people really like scrolling through the LinkedIn app as opposed to on the desktop? So posting links on LinkedIn would be a better like bang for your buck in regards to like if you have a website and you really want people to be able to see your website more often,
Mhm.
then that would be the place to put it. I mean, obviously you can't really post links on Instagram. I'm like you can have hashtag link in bio, but at the same time, like you're not gonna be able to see a link in your feed. So if you really want to post a link in your feed somewhere, those are gonna be on the platforms like LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. So I'm really, really glad that you brought that up. But for me as a consumer, when I think about a good content mix, I'm gonna kind of just like go like platform by platform here in the sense of that if I'm looking at somebody's Facebook page and I start scrolling through and like all I see are graphics, I'm immediately like bored. Or if I see like just text, I'm bored. Like I
Mhm.
want to see a little bit of everything. Like I want to see like an educational graphic. I want to see like a text thing that says like, "Hey, what are you guys doing this weekend? What are your plans?" And then maybe I want to see like an educational video or like a video of something that you guys are doing around the office, or even just like a, "Hey, these are the ABCDs of Medicare." Or even like, "Hey, like this person went live and were asking the audience like, 'Hey, what are your questions about Medicare?'" Or whatever the case may be, or whether it's like an insurance agent or maybe if it's just like another brand that I'm looking into that I'm potentially shopping for. If you don't have a good mix of media within your pages, people are just going to get bored. They're kind of like take one look at you. I think about we were actually just talking earlier about how, people with ADHD, they're constantly needing to be refreshed by something. So when I think about like scrolling through somebody's page or like a business's page, I want to be constantly like reintroduced to something. And although not a lot of people, maybe in their older years, have ADHD, or maybe they do and they were just undiagnosed for forever and are still undiagnosed. But at the same time, like you said, we have really short attention spans. So we're constantly wanting to have like that something new, something like cool to look at, something like brightly colored. And it's like, ooh, shiny, like I love glitter, but yeah. So what I think that it's really important too is and the way to do that is really by having a content calendar. And so when you have like a bird's eye view of what your content is going to look like for an entire month, you're able to kind of reiterate that you want to be able to have like, okay, so I'm going to do videos on Wednesdays. Maybe I'll do graphics on like Mondays and Fridays. And then maybe I'll do like a text on Thursdays or like on Tuesdays, or maybe on Tuesdays I'll go live. And to me, like that seems like a great way to kind of stay organized, but because it can become really, really overwhelming when you're trying to like put a whole like marketing strategy together. Like I love planning, but then my sense of being able to go from the plan to execution is really, really daunting. So what do you find that works for you when you're going through like a marketing strategy for social media and going through the planning phase to the content capturing phase to editing and then scheduling? What does that process kind of look like for you?
Oh, yes. So this is a beast I've been trying to tackle for a while because it's not easy. You can have all these ideas and that's great, right? But then your mind can kind of spiral out of control. And if you don't set like goals for yourself or that foundation of that calendar, like you're saying, it's really easy to get distracted to just always be filming content and not actually, editing because it's great. Some of the things we want to film it, maybe that excites us, especially if we're filming about our passions or talking about it. But then when you have to like sit there and think about the hours you're about to spend editing, no one wants to sit there editing all
No.
these things. And especially it can be discouraging if you're just starting out because you're like, great, 10 hours for this content filming, editing for 2 likes. Thank you to my 2 fans. It's really
Literally,
hard.
literally. Oh my gosh. I mean, honestly, I feel like that's the reason why I don't want to say I stopped doing YouTube because I wasn't getting a ton of like likes or views or something, but at the same time it is really discouraging. You spend so much time and effort, like, especially editing video, because video editing just takes for freaking ever. For example, today I was actually editing two different like short videos for my agent's social media marketing program, and it took me almost like 2 hours to edit just like those two videos, and they're only like a minute and a half each. But that's only because like I'm adding like text and graphics, but I was trying to keep up with like what they were saying in the video. And
Mhm.
so I'm like basically taking the text as opposed to it just like auto generating the captions like how you would
Yeah.
with TikTok, but I was doing it through CapCut. So it can be really difficult too, because one of the things that I had an agent say at our sales summit a couple weeks ago is that I think she said that some sort of like crazy statistic, like percentage of people read at a third grade level. So you really do have to prioritize video, but at the same time, you also want to make sure that you're having those captions there for people who are maybe hard of hearing. And
Mhm.
then also having text on the screen is a little bit more engaging as well, because it kind of keeps people, engaged with what's going on because you're constantly having something changing on the screen. So, but that does take a decent amount of time and it can be really overwhelming.
It can be. And I think it's going to depend on the type of person that you are. Maybe you want to, kind of time block off like an hour a night for editing if you're just getting started, or maybe you're someone who's like, absolutely not, I'm not doing an hour every day, I don't like social media and that's not going to ruin every day of my life. And maybe you want to block off like your Sunday mornings or just a chunk of time and film and edit. So it really depends if you're someone who wants to like shoot the content, edit, then schedule the post and save it in a draft or something, or if you want to just do it all at once. So you can do it daily, but maybe it's easier for you to kind of just build all these different things for your next week, for your next month. But for sure, plan it out. It'll help you. And that way you can stay organized and structured with maybe the content you want to post, and something that's more relevant. So let's say you post a reels, you have a bunch of comments and people give you 10 questions. Well, that might be 10 more reel ideas. And you could flight that out. Instead of posting 10 reels in a row, you could maybe make an infographic with just like 10 things to know about like insurance. And then you post that one day. And then you post like a reels to get people's attention. And then you space it out too. So that way you're not constantly spending hours editing a reel, right? You can make an infographic, or maybe some things are way quicker for you to post, but you find that they're highly engaging. That's a great way to fill it. And it depends on what your niche is, what you're trying to sell to people, or just spread the word out there. So you have to, it's a lot of trial and error, and just try not to be discouraged. I know how overwhelming, how much it is, how much time gets spent on it. And some people don't realize, but we feel you, we understand. Social
Yeah.
media is so hard, but just stick with it. It is so rewarding, especially because it is free. It is the best tool out there. Yes, you can pay to boost your ads. Yes, you can pay to advertise. It's a lot of money. And if you can just naturally do it through, or we call it organically when you don't pay, that's the best way, especially when you're starting off.
Yeah, especially when you're doing it for like a small like person to person business too. Because a lot of what I've really realized about a lot of our agents that we work with here are that they're very much very personable people, and they really do care so, so much about their clients, and they really are out here to provide solutions for people, which is absolutely fabulous. But in the sense of the fact that it's sometimes it can be really hard and daunting to realize that social media is there to be social. You're
Mhm.
there to be personable with people. Even though it's your business, people, your business is to be personable. Your business is to build relationships and make friends and build referrals, because that's really the only way that you're going to build your book of business. A goal without a plan is just a wish, right? So
Yeah.
you have to think about what your goals are, and then you have to build a plan in order to get to where you want to be. And I also really like the fact that you had brought up too, is that you kind of like what you have to find what your process is for building that piece of content. Like you said, that if you want to do all your filming on this day and then all your editing on this day, I'm a batch type person. I love to go through and like I'll spend like an entire, maybe even like day or maybe just a couple of hours thinking of ideas of what type of pieces of content that I want to come up with. And then I can go through and then I can maybe schedule them out and be like, okay, well, this would make a really nice like infographic. This would make a nice graphic. This would be like a cute video idea. And this is what I can do for that. And then I can maybe like put them into a calendar. And then at that point is when I can be like, okay, well, I'm going to do all the graphics on Tuesday. And then I can do all of the videos on Wednesday. I'll film them all. And then on Thursday, I can edit all of the videos and do one thing after another and kind of like have those repetitive steps. And then on Friday is when I'll go through and schedule all of those pieces of content for the next month. So then I really don't have to worry about it for the next 3 weeks. But then during those 3 weeks, I'm continuing to engage with my community, scrolling through my social media feeds. And instead of really focusing on the likes and the engagement, which obviously, yes, like we said, is important, but really taking the time to go through Facebook groups, go through LinkedIn groups, and join those groups that other people that match your target audience. What types of groups are they in on social media? And then going through and engaging with them. I had an agent a couple days ago. I was trying to educate them on how to use Facebook groups in order to build their clientele and build their book of business and network with other people online. And they asked me, they're like, how do you have time to do this? And I was like, because I make the time. I make the time. I spend 30 minutes a day scrolling through Facebook groups, just talking with people. I mean, literally, even if it's just, hey, I've got a question for you guys in the group. What do you guys think of this? Or like, no, just like scrolling through, like, if somebody's posting a picture of whatever, I'll be like, oh my gosh, that's so cute. Goodness, like, blah, like, whatever the case may be. But I have to engage with the community so that people can get to know me. They can see my profile picture, they can see my business name or like my social media handle, because you can't expect other people to get to know you and get to know your brand if you're not putting yourself out there. That's the thing, is that you have to put yourself out there and you can't be afraid of the rejection. And I think that that is something that's very important to know as an insurance agent or just as a business owner in general, is that you are going to get the rejection. And that's something that a lot of people have to be very comfortable with, as the rejection. But on the flip side of the same coin, you will never be able to get rejected if you don't put yourself out there in the first place.
Yeah, you have to. You have to put yourself out there, and sometimes just putting yourself out there, you can't expect them to come to you. So like you said, you have to go to them. You have to be the one to
Yeah.
engage in the groups. You have to be the one to try to get that traction going on your content, to bring people to you. You have to put yourself out there. You can't kind of just hide behind the screen, and you can't be afraid. And I think people, like, genuine relatable things are really picking up now, especially on social media. So it's okay to show the real side of you. And you don't want to throw this whole like fake persona and seem very salesy in a way. And it brings that genuine side to things, especially when you're trying to do sales. If someone's shoving numbers and things all down my throat, I'm not likely to like click on their content or engage. But if they are so relatable and just seem like a genuine human being, right, that they actually want to help me, I'll be welcoming. I won't kind of just push it away and think, no, it's a scam, or oh, I don't want that, or please leave me alone. No, not another sales pitch, right?
Oh my
That's
gosh.
yeah.
I love that you brought that up, because actually this is something that I talked about in my webinar on Tuesday. I hosted a webinar. If you guys want to see it, it's on the IAD YouTube channel. It is how to generate high quality leads on Facebook without paying a penny for ads. And we talked about doing stuff in groups and how to like engage people in groups, and how you have to really gain people's trust and you have to get them to get to know who you are as a person and as a business owner before you really start promoting yourself. Because I can't tell you how many agents I'd talked to and been like, oh, well, I tried doing that in like Facebook groups. Like I would post like my business card in there and be like, hey guys, if you need help with insurance, like call me. And everybody like yelled at me. I'm like, Well, yeah, no, duh. I'm like, because if I listen, if I went into a bridal group and I posted a picture of my business card, I'll be like, hey, everybody, like, call me. They'd be like, why? Why should I call you? Like, how did you provide me with any benefit? Like, so you have to get people to get to know who you are and engage with the community and network and get people to know you first, because then whenever those people do have questions and they do have issues, they'll be more likely to trust you whenever you are to be like, hey, you know what? I'm a licensed Medicare agent. I could totally help you out with that issue. Or I'm a licensed life insurance agent. I would love to help you with your financial planning in the sense of life insurance, annuities, whatever the case may be. So, but yeah, I love that you brought that up because I'm definitely the same way too, where I'm like, if you just post a bunch of like sales stuff and like another sales pitch in my face, I'm like, oh my God. Or even like the messages that are like, hey babe, I know that we haven't talked since high school, but I'm part of an MLM now. And I would love for you to like come to this whatever party. And I'm like, absolutely not. Block. So you have to build the relationship first. And if you're not, then what are you doing? Like, what are
Mhm.
you doing?
Agree. Totally agree.
But yeah, okay. I think we pretty much covered and everything. Oh my goodness. Well, Kayla, thank you so, so much for being my guest today again.
Yes, the third time's a charm.
Right?
Everyone better
Exactly.
share this.
Oh my gosh, absolutely, absolutely. But really quick before we sign off, let's kind of like recap what we talked about today and like the really important things that we know now about how to structure content for higher reach, views, and engagement. And that is to make sure that your content is aligning with your business goals and that it has to be purposeful. We also want to make sure that we are posting content that is going to work with the algorithm. So making sure that we have something that has a good hook at the beginning. We're also establishing our credibility with either saying like our name or our business name, and then stating maybe how long we've been in the industry and kind of like what we do for a living and how we provide others with value. And then going into the meat and potatoes of the content, and then also giving a call to engagement so that then other people can either comment their questions down below, like, and share. We also talked about how sharing is almost more important than the likes and the comments because that is kind of how content tends to go viral. We also talked about content diversification and how important it is to have a good mix of media on your social media pages, especially if you have a platform like Facebook and LinkedIn. You really should be taking advantage of the fact that you can post videos, photos, links, text, as well as going live. Going live and doing those 5-minute Medicare 101 little like mini seminars would be perfect for Facebook and LinkedIn, as well as Instagram and TikTok as well. We also talked about having a purpose to your content, like education, entertainment, or encouraging your audience. We also talked about how we can prioritize video content in our strategy as well, because it is the closest thing to face, and how a good majority of people in today's world, they read at a third grade level. So if you're posting something like a PDF to your LinkedIn page, like people are just going to scroll past it. They're not going to read it. But we also talked about too about how on LinkedIn, most of the time it's used on the desktop. So that's a great way for you to strategize on LinkedIn is by posting links. And then we also talked about how important it is to have a good content calendar and how you really just have to find your workflow in regards to developing content because it's very tedious and time consuming. Well, it is shameless plug time. Where can people find you?
On my Instagram at Kayla Solomon. Hopefully, I'll have a new business started soon, but that will be shared on my current Instagram. So you can find me there.
Woo, awesome. Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me today on today's episode of the Direct Insurance Podcast as we talked about how to structure content for higher reach and engagement. And a special thanks to all of our listeners out there. And if you want to listen to this podcast on the day after it airs, you can watch it over on our YouTube channel. And if you are an independent insurance agent and you're looking for an industry partner, we here at Insurance Advisors Direct would love to be considered. You can visit our website, www.iadbrokerage.com, and you can also call us toll free 1-800-381-0977. Please also follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and TikTok. Thank you so much again, Kayla, for joining me. And thank you so much to everybody out there listening. We hope you have a great day. Bye.